When I arrived in China a year ago, I wrote an article saying that Brazil should get rid of the restriction on visas for Chinese. That was the first thing I wrote, and I spoke on television about it, just for one reason. You know, China had, in the last year, had more than 160 million people traveling outside of China. And only 50,000 of these 160 million people went to Brazil. Now, Brazil has a nice weather, nice beaches, has a forest, has jungles, has everything that is attractive for any tourist. So when the visa restriction was taken out, I was celebrating, because I always tell the people in Brazil that we can gain a lot with the United States and Europe, but these gains are going to be marginal, while the relationship with China can bring exponential gains. Now, people like to criticize China because they do not understand that it's not a threat, and we should actually benefit from the fact that China is coming up, and it has this disruptive effect in the world because you have a huge market, and a huge market that likes to consume, and I think it's good, and you know, it's a very productive and hardworking market. So I think that the world was not prepared for this disruption, but we, instead of criticizing it, we should embrace it because it's a positive thing for everyone. Now, I always say that if every Chinese were to drink a cup of coffee, no, it's at least 1.4 billion cups of coffee every day. My country is a major coffee producing country, so we would be affected in a positive way. BRICS plays an important role, and sometimes we do not understand it. I think that BRICS could be like the G7, what did the G7 represented to the world in the 70s and 80s, and also 90s. I could say that BRICS should play that role in the way that these are the emerging economies in the world. Of course, China is the most important one out of the BRICS, right? But I think that these emerging countries, as they come up and improve their situation in the world, they have a different perspective on things, how things are. And this different perspective will certainly affect the majority of the world that comes from the South. Now, sometimes we forget that cooperation is an essential element of international relations. But I say that even when we look into the earth, you understand that the world was made and created with a cooperation design. Now, look into this, you know, any product that you think about, any vegetable that you think about, will always have at least two harvests. Because when you have spring in the north, you have fall in the south. So you have, you know, you can harvest on the spring in the north, but also 6 months later, you have spring in the south. So this way, you show that there is always abundance in the world, and there is the possibility of changing. So in order to do that, this cooperation between North and South is essential for you to develop a better world. And I think the idea of BRI and promoting cooperation is really something that was missing. And I agree that the more we see China expanding, and with this vision of enhancing cooperation, I think that we're on a good track. I think we may have external actors interfering in the relationship, which you have to remember, we are located in the American continent, so we're close to the United States. We have a historical relationship with the US. I think there are challenges. Of course, we'll have external actors. We'll have the distance, right? It's 24 hours by plane to go to Brazil. It's 1 month by boat. So the distance is there. And we also have the cultural divide, right? You know, what you have in China, what we have in Brazil. We're more westernized than China is in that sense. But I always say one lesson that I learned a long time ago from a good friend of mine. He used to say, if there is a will, there is a way. So I think that if our leaders, both in Brazil and in China, have the desire to make the partnership work, I think there are no challenges that could be an impediment for them to do it, because if there is a will, there is a way.